would rather tell his feelings to a woman or a tree?
A tree, probably.
Hang on. Going around the table. Would a man rather tell his feelings to a woman or a tree?
Definitely a woman.
A tree.
A tree.
I feel like it depends on the situation, but I guess a tree.
I feel like he wants to tell it to a woman, but he feel like he can't, so he'd rather just go talk to a tree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Good.
A tree. Probably a tree.
Well, then, if the social commentary is that we need to be looking at it from your end, that you perceive men as being kind of unpredictable and dangerous in comparison to this massive wild animal, which is known for, mauling random people, then shouldn't you also take into account and take responsibility on the woman's end for the fact that men can't even talk to you or discuss with you how we feel about anything and would rather tell it to an inanimate object than you?
Yes, and I have a quick question about that this for the table or whatever. My question is this. How come the idea of 20 men finding them in the forest compared to a bear sounds safer than me with one man? How come that is?
Yeah, but I mean, I could engage with you on it, but why would I tell you how I felt about it? I'd rather talk to a fucking tree, right? And this is the whole point. The whole point is that I would rather open up about my feelings to a tree than open up about my feelings to you by your own admission. And yet the social commentary is only one-dimensional, where you say, well, how come men won't take responsibility for how we feel about them? Well, how come you won't see it from our angle that as we're having this discussion, I would probably prefer to take a random inanimate object, in this case a tree, and open up about my feelings to the tree than you, and it's true. So, I mean, isn't that crazy, though? Like, where's the responsibility from the other direction?
I admit, y'all set
agree,
that
but
up
I
for
also
yourselves.
disagree.
I admit it is a bit outlandish in a sense, because it's like, I mean, I'm thinking if I were to encounter 20 men or a bear, I would feel safer with the 20 men than the one man. I don't know. Maybe is it because you have bad experience with one man? I never had a bad experience with 20 men. Is that it? Is that just the bias? Like,
well, no. Listen. So what we're looking at is we're looking at kind of a plural meaning here from the woman's perspective. So I'm taking myself out of my shoes, trying to put myself into the shoes of you. You say, listen, I'd much rather come across a random bear than a man, because I can ascribe all of these motivations onto a random man of things that they could do to me which are sick and twisted and dark and horrible, and I can maybe at least predict a bear. And it's like, men, from the woman's perspective, like, I don't understand why men don't get this. What we're looking at is the duality here. If I'm taking myself out of my shoes and I'm putting myself in your shoes and I'm trying to see it from your angle, because to me it's insane, right? A woman saying, I'd rather have a random, but I'm going, okay, this is the problem with the social commentary from the female perspective. We're not listening to the women and how they feel about us. But then when I bring up the tree, you kind of instantly are like, yeah, of course a tree, but then don't give a shit, right? You're just like, well, and fuck them. I don't care if they would prefer to talk to a tree. We have done nothing. We're perfect. If they have to go talk to a tree, that's also men's fault, right?
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think men can't express their feelings to women? Or to anybody, honestly?
Because y'all don't give a fuck.
Yeah, because you don't care, and you don't. So the thing is that if you don't, yeah. So I'm gonna answer your question, right? If you don't give a shit, and you don't, right? And this is why that men prefer to talk to
not
you.
and we don't. Not and we don't. Who said we don't?
You did, because you said that that men would rather open up to a tree than you.
Sorry, but me doesn't mean that I know men would rather open up to a tree. Does not mean that I don't give a shit about what a man says.
Well, then why would they prefer to open up to a tree than you?
Because men don't want to be
because of the system men have set up.
Take it for themselves.
So to get this right, it's men's fault that they would rather talk to a tree.
Probably because of the system.
Right, so it's men's fault that they would rather talk to a tree. Women have no accountability at all, right?
It actually is.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's the whole point of the duality. The reason we don't give a shit about the absurd fucking answer of women who go, I'd rather fight a bear in the woods. Even though none of you ever experienced a fucking random bear in the woods, you have no idea what that's like. It'd be the most terrifying experience of your life. What happened with you and the bear in the woods? Tell me. Go ahead, tell me. Give me a story about you and the bear in the woods. No, the other gal who I'm in the exchange with. Yeah, what happened?
I stood still. I could predict what the bear would do when I would stand hill
happened?
and hide. Yeah.
This actually happened?
Yes.
Where?
I'm from California. I've been to Tahoe multiple of times.
So up in Tahoe, what type of bear came around you and you just stood still and it walked off?
Yep.
Where?
Because bears, guess what? They're predictable. Men aren't.
No, bears, especially in Tahoe, are not predictable. Especially because they eat human garbage and things like this. People out there feed them. It's a massive problem. They're usually in those areas ultra violent because they have no fear of humans. Totally unpredictable. But the point is that the reason that we don't give a shit about the social commentary on this, we don't care to see it from a woman's perspective. But don't you men understand why it is that you're so dangerous? Is because when I bring up a counterexample of the tree, you go, well, that's also men's fault.
It is.
Right, it is. It literally is.
For yourself.
Wait, what system?
What do you mean, what system?
What's the system?
Like men telling
What
their
system?
sons, you can't cry, you can't express this, you can't express that. Be
Facts.
tough. That's y'all set that shit up.
Wait, so hold on. Abigail, you respond, then you have something. Go ahead.
Okay, I would say the reason sons are raised to suck it up is you asked him.
Exactly,
This is
to
just
suck
hold
it
on.
up.
This is just an example. You asked.
Hold on.
Lol Paladins donated $200.
Another one.
Maybe the bear was at the funeral.
Could be.
I'm making some
Okay,
money.
yes.
You
Thank you,
asked him
Paladins.
why you think that men would pick the tree. And he answered with the same answer, and you said, okay, give me an actual good answer. So they elaborated on how they feel on the subject, and you started yelling.
I
And
never
talking over them.
asked why they think
I
that.
wouldn't want to share my feelings
Here,
with that.
just-
So, if he expressed to Brian here why he would rather talk to a tree than a woman, Brian would understand. I doubt he'd talk over him or say that's not a good enough answer. He expressed those feelings to you, you talked over him, you said it wasn't a good enough answer. But you're also saying you responded that way and nobody would want to share their feelings with that. That's just objectively true. You responded that way and you're also blaming men for not wanting to share their feelings with women.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but all they said is they would rather talk to a tree.
And that was just
And
their
they
answer.
said because
You're
women
actually
don't give-
interrupting me and you're just talking to me about interrupting you. I was just saying they told me that they would rather speak to a tree and they said, oh, why is that? And I just said, well, y'all set that system up. That's all I said.
No, actually, the opposite happened. What happened is we asked you, what do you think men would rather do? Open up to a woman or open up to a tree? And you said to a tree. Right, so this was not us juxtaposing a position onto you. This was you, rather, telling us
Then you
your
agreed
position.
they would rather talk to a tree.
Right, why?
Yeah, and I said,
So
it's-
why?
But-
Why would
okay,
you rather
hold
talk
on,
to a
hold
tree?
on. Can you just straighten up? Here, look. Straighten up. Scoot the mic this way. Scoot it to the very edge of the table. Because what you end up doing is you're like hiding behind the microphone. So just speak straight into the
sorry, I
microphone.
have really bad posture.
It's okay. Go ahead.
So yeah, I was just saying, like, why would men rather talk to a tree? Probably because from the age of like 2, they were told that they can't express their emotions. They can't feel this. They can't feel that. They can't cry. They need to toughen up.
Yeah.
that was
What
her
I'm
answer.
going based off of is when you said, you asked them, why do you guys think men would rather talk to a tree? And they said, because women don't care. And you said, give me an actual good answer. That was both of their answers, and you didn't like their answer.
Well,
that
actually,
was them,
I mean, so
you didn't like it.
I'm
would you
happy
not-
to engage with her answer. I'm happy to engage with her answer because I think it's actually interesting and rather telling, right? It's the man's fault that he would rather do that. But this is the duality that I'm trying to point out. The duality is this. The reason that you think that men are so unpredictable, you don't know what they're going to do, this and that, is precisely because some men cannot control their emotions. Because they don't have good impulse control. Because they do act out, and when they do act out, they do a lot of damage because of their lack of emotional control. And yet, here you are saying, if only men had less of this emotional control could open up to us, wouldn't that be actually counterproductive to your position of the bear, though?
I think opening up to a part of empathy, like on a level of empathy.
Nick.
I'm willing to challenge my own delusion. I will say this. I'm willing to challenge my
Hold on. I'm
okay.
sorry. Wasn't
Sorry.
this directed at you?
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So you're kind of
What did you say?
You
He was
didn't
direct-
hear what I said?
towards you.
No,
You didn't hear what he was saying?
None of it?
no.
Okay, well
what?
then I'll just have the conversation with the person who's listening to what I'm actually saying. So anyway, back to where we're at.
Wait, you know what? Wait, hold on. I want to tune into something that actually just occurred. Andrew, the thing that you brought up was, do you think a man would rather share his feelings to a woman or a tree?
Yeah.
She wasn't listening to anything.
She wasn't listening to a word of it, right? Because she doesn't care, right?
Woman
Even
in a
though-
room full of women. that you
Even
feel
though
like that
you've been
about.
perfectly respectful,
So
Andrew,
how are you
you've been
relate that to
perfectly
everyone?
polite, she intentionally just refused to even hear what you had to say and hear how you felt and hear how you thought about the conversation at hand.
But that's also, but you got to understand, Brian, that's also my fault.
Intentional.
It's also your fault, Andrew.
It's my fault.
You're